So, Bakhtiyar, thank you so much for this interview.
Thank you too.
You're welcome. Which is part of a broader ICER project on the relations between Armenia and Azerbaijan.
Yeah.
So, the trilateral agreement has stabilized the situation to a certain extent. Which factors you identified that could upset the precarious balance?
Yeah. Okay. Let's start like this. I mean, of course, this 44 days of war was quite deadly and I would say violent for both sides of the conflicts. And luckily it ended with the, let's say, this trilateral agreement. I don't know whether we can call it an agreement or not, but at least I think we can call it as a ceasefire agreement, and maybe with several the articles that also focuses on the resolution, but I couldn't call it as a final peace agreement, or I don't know, the peace agreement in general, because it's different. This trilateral statement, which was signed by two presidents and one prime minister, I think that meant to stop the ongoing of the war, and it was important to sign this agreement again for both sides of the conflict, because even though I mentioned that the conflict was quite violent, but the upcoming days, weeks, or months was approaching to the winter, and I think if the war would continue in that, let's say, the level, that would be more deadly and more, I would say, tragic for military personnel as well as for civilians from both sides, and emotions were quite high, as you might observe during that period. And of course, I wish that this war wouldn't happen, because almost more than 2 decades of peace negotiations happened with the mediation of OSCE Minsk co-chairs. Unfortunately, didn't lead to any, let's say, solution or peaceful solution. But this trilateral, let's say, agreement settled or tackled some issues which have been on the tables of negotiation. And it also changed I would say it changed a lot of things. Like, first, it changed the nature of the conflict, and also it changed the roles of the and of players. In that terms, yeah, I think the new situation will, let's say, will impose us different scenarios for future. Of course, like Azerbaijanis or experts in Azerbaijan are quite optimistic, and especially, let's just be honest, I mean, I call it like theoretical perspective, but theoretically, Azerbaijan was winner of this war, and it also gives more impulses or motivations to lead, at least from this point, to the peace or durable peace. I don't know how to call it, but there are a lot of issues which are on the table and needs to be tackled. But I think after the first Karabakh war, which happened in end of 80s, started 80s and started beginning of 90s, had left different emotions, different opinions in the minds of people, either for Armenians, for Azerbaijanis, I would say either euphoria or I don't know, like different perception. But it also, impacted to different generation in different contexts. This war, I would say, also wakened up like people, like to see the casualties of the war, the real casualties of the war, and especially the war with modern and different technologies. It was not 90s war. It was clear. I think, again, I think this agreement was needed and it was signed. We have in total more than, I would say, like more than 7,000 losses, either civilians or military personnel. And it also impacts the economy and everything, social life and everything in both societies. This will lead some stabilization in the region, of course, especially in Nagorno-Karabakh region, but it's not, I'm kind of afraid or suspicious that it might be a little bit fragile because okay, the Azerbaijan has taken the control over its territories, but there are several aspects that we shouldn't underestimate, especially let's say the role of Russia, or there are also other paramilitary groups, but in general, I think for a few years or maybe decade, at least let's call it like a negative piece. I don't know whether it's a good term to use or not, but it will prevail in the case of Nagorno-Karabakh conflict. But the next steps should be acted. Parties need to develop their approaches, views, or I don't know, strategies for peaceful coexistence, especially in the Nagorno-Karabakh and also in the communities, border communities between Azerbaijan and Armenia, for making this peace as durable peace, or signing final peace agreement and then focusing on reconstruction and building better life for the people. I hope I answered your question, but just if I don't, just please, remind me. I can focus on, because it's a very huge topic. Yeah.
Of course, it is.
Yeah.
Since you mentioned the people, to what extent are the rights of the Armenian population in the Karabakh region observed? Sorry. To what extent are the rights of the Armenian population in the Nagorno-Karabakh region assured?
To be honest, it's a little bit difficult to answer to this question for me, because I don't have direct information from Karabakh, because like before and even nowadays, Azerbaijanis are not allowed to go to these regions, and of course we meet different people, Armenians, either from Armenia or from Karabakh, in third countries, or I don't know, in neutral zone. But I think especially for like in terms of the human rights issues, it would be better to, let's say, to see the field and to feel and to observe the real the processes, what's happening there. I don't know, like unfortunately I can't like answer this question clearly. I wish some of our Armenian colleagues would have deep information or deeply, let's say, studied information on this topic. Yeah, but yeah, really, it's a little bit difficult for me to answer this question. I don't want to, you know, like fake some information from myself, like just.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, really. I mean, let's just not. I don't want to. I don't know. I mean, refer to propaganda either from Armenian or from Azerbaijan sides. I mean.
So, but yeah. And if you, since you have no access to the region, who has access to the region? Armenian NGOs or no NGOs at all?
Right now, and before the war and after the war, Armenian NGOs are allowed to go to Karabakh. Like after this trilateral agreement or ceasefire agreement, Armenian citizens can easily and without any barrier go to Karabakh through Lachin corridor, except but the foreigners are not allowed anymore. I mean, even Azerbaijan also tried to stop visits of foreign citizens without permission of Azerbaijan to go to Karabakh, but it didn't work. I think it still has some problems, like from the perspective of Azerbaijan, because we can see some journalists or some different organizations can cross legally or illegally, but at least I noticed from the news recently that I read, Armenian citizens can go, and there are also some NGOs or individuals who are quite active in, let's say, in the society or community. If you want, I can try to get you in touch with some of these people. I'm sure they have more information, like either from Karabakh or from Armenia, like who constantly commute, let's say, to Karabakh. Yeah, but Azerbaijanis are not allowed. I mean, so far Azerbaijanis are not allowed to go. I mean, it's physically, it's not possible to go there.
I understand. And so you are in contact with Armenian NGOs?
To some extent, yes. I'm in contact. Of course, the war impacted our relations in different levels because the emotions were quite high from both sides. And especially when the war was going on, and it also negatively impacted to the peace building processes that had been taking in last few decades. But I personally try to get in contact with some people, either directly or indirectly, for the future of the region, like to organize or conduct some peace building activities. I know it's a little bit, again, I mean, I'm coming to the previous argument. It's emotional. It looks at least easier for Azerbaijanis to talk about peace rather than Armenians, because like losing the war, and now there's a political crisis, internal political crisis in Armenia, and everything is a little bit complicated. But I think as far as the time passes, these relations, maybe not all relations, but most of the relations will be recovered. I mean, relations between civil society actors that used to exist, let's say, But again, yeah, in the beginning, especially, like we could observe, like in the beginning, like not in the beginning, just after signing the trilateral agreement, it was difficult to get either involved in a joint project or like even in discussion, like to find like Armenian experts. But from my perspective, it was understandable at some point. the same time, I personally see peace activists or the representatives of civil society as kind of a leaders in their own societies, and I'm a little bit critical about it, like just to be over emotional on several issues. But we don't have the right to criticize everybody because of their own stand. Yeah,
I understand. So since you mentioned that, since you were even reluctant to call the trilateral agreement an agreement, and since you said it's rather unstable, are you aware of any steps, of any like concrete steps, plans, considerations from the Azerbaijani side to finalize this conflict, to finalize the military victory?
Yeah. Again, the war changed a lot of things, and one of the good things from Azerbaijan side is that the rhetorics in the society is changing. Like especially before the war, like Azerbaijan had always mentioned that we have a right to restore our territorial integrity through use of force. But nowadays, even I would say by the president of Azerbaijan or other officials, we see they say it's done. I mean, the military operation part of this resolution is done, and the next step is to rebuild and reconstruct these how they call like the liberated areas, like either in the lowland Karabakh or upper Karabakh, or mountainous Karabakh. I see. I mean, they constantly highlight this, especially coexistence. Of course, there's no strategy right now how the life will be, because let's say before the latest war, Azerbaijan mostly had IDPs and refugees. But after the latest war, Armenia also, I mean, has a lot of IDPs or refugees, either from Karabakh region or from the border regions. You can see there are several communities that, especially close to Karabakh, when the war was going on, these people were afraid, and then they left their houses or flats, and now they're displaced mainly in big cities and towns in Armenia. That's why, again, there is no strategy or strategic plan how to take next steps. Maybe there is, it's not public, but so far they haven't declared to the public. I know, like now the sites separately work on in their societies, like with the help of Russian peacekeepers. Some Karabakhi Armenians moved back to their own houses, or the authority or Russian peacekeepers try to build new, maybe temporary, but new houses for them to settle or resettle there. Azerbaijan also has been working on demining activities in these liberated areas, and also trying to do some reconstruction activities, repairing some roads or some buildings, especially in Shusha, because it's less destroyed, I mean, than other towns or cities like Aghdam, Fizuli, or Zengilan or Jebrail. Yes, we can see like separate, or like building airport in different, they're building airport in Fizuli town, and they're planning to build 2 more airports in Karabakh. But the good sign again, I mean, and I highly appreciate it, because since I have been involved in these peace building activities, I had never seen these frequently highlighted phrases which focuses on peace, coexistence. Of course, it also eases our activities or future activities in this direction. Again, there's no formula. There's no formula how to do this, because then the government of Azerbaijan also highlights like to return IDPs from the regions that are not currently under the control of Azerbaijan. But then it's kind of, it's highlighted in a statement in different meetings or in different occasions. But we also see negative reactions from Armenian sides. I don't know, that's especially because of the internal political crisis in Armenia, it's a little bit difficult for them to, let's say, to go for this. And I think there are a lot of things which will depend on the situation in Armenia, because I mean, one side cannot achieve peace or durable peace just by itself. It depends how the leadership or the government, either incumbent government or the future government, see the future of their own country and region. But so far, again, Azerbaijan just repeatedly highlight this peaceful coexistence. Not only peaceful coexistence, but also like economic, like opening the borders, like economic integrations of the communities or countries. I mean, in this trilateral agreement, there's also one article which talks about like opening communications, especially railways and highways from Azerbaijan. Like, let's say for Azerbaijan, it will be opening for through Armenia to go to Nakhichevan, which is another autonomous region of Azerbaijan, and then to Turkey. And for Armenia, it will be like through Azerbaijan going to Russia, which, I mean, I think it would be, economically, it would be quite good approach and step for de-blockading the region, I would say. And of course, the economic incentives will always positively impact to the peace process. Of course, right now, I mean, again, in this, both societies' emotions are high. I mean, they're not close to appreciate this kind of, let's say, cooperation. But I think it's quite vital, and it has to be done either sooner or later. I mean, near or far, like the far future. Like this is the only way, and I think ordinary people understand this. Like from both sides. I mean, they're tired. Really, they're tired of this violence that happened for 3 decades. I mean, even though we didn't have, let's say, war, like active war, let's put it like this, the active war in after the first Karabakh war, but there were always clashes, skirmishes happened either between the border between Armenia and Azerbaijan, or in the line of contact areas, and there were a lot of killings from both sides, sniper shoots or mine explosions and several things. Yeah, I mean, all these human losses, of course, makes people tired, and they want really to have better life. Yeah, and especially like this COVID situation impacts the well-being of people, and I think it might also be another positive trigger to rebuild these economic ties, relations. But again, I think it depends on the political agenda of the governments. It might change, definitely it might change, because again, it's not final peace agreement, and none of the countries recognizes each other's territorial integrity, and this is one of the main issues should be also like implemented. I think they're doing some how can I say, demarcation, I think, like demarcation processes, like they're identifying the borders which used to exist during the Soviet time. It's good sign, again, but as far as there's no official acknowledgement, mutual acknowledgement, I think we can consider this trilateral agreement as quite fragile, let's say, document.
Yeah, I understand. So one last question: in this conflict and in the months of peace making, of rebuilding, how would you evaluate the roles of the powers of Russia and Turkey?
I mean, there are several and different views about the role of Russia and Turkey, even before the war and during the war and after the war. Of course, Russia has been one of the main the countries that has provided weaponry for both sides. And plus, not only in Karabakh case, but also like the role of Russia in other post-Soviet countries has been always quite negative. I wouldn't call it as like a benevolent actor, even though Russia or Russian officials state that like Russian peacekeeper, I mean, they have Russian peacekeepers either in Abkhazia or Moldova, Transnistria, or Crimea. But I mean, practically, it's not peace-keeping forces. I mean, we see. But Russia's role was quite important for halting the active war, which happened in, I think, 10th of November. Russia always tried to, let's say, keep the balance between Armenia and Azerbaijan by providing weaponry or by kind of supporting, not directly but indirectly, in a political level, like with their statements. Of course, Russia is allied with Armenia, especially in military and economic perspectives. But Russia also understands the importance of Azerbaijan in this region. And that's why they always try to be careful in this context. Again, the thing is that Russia also has been also involved in this mediation team together with other two OSCE countries. But I personally don't find Russia as, let's say, biased for peace mediator. I would say it's mostly biased for conflict, maybe not war, but Russia has been, I think, in the position to keep the status quo, or maybe like to have a little change or like little steps in the resolution of the conflict, but not final. Russia doesn't want to see the final resolution of this conflict because it's kind of a tool for Russia to control or have its own leverage or impact in both countries or in the governments that exist in both countries. When it comes to the public opinion, I can say in Azerbaijan, I mean, we don't have, let's say, a very positive reputation of Russia in our mind. I personally see Russia as a kind of, at some point, a troublemaker. Yeah, I know it's a little bit hard term to use, but I think at some point we can use, maybe it's too early to highlight like this, but there are some activities that has been done by Russia which are not public, but everybody is aware of this. According to these facts or the policies, I think mention this point. And plus, Russia already also had a negative role during the first Karabakh war, which Azerbaijan is always, like if you talk to an Azerbaijani, they will always blame Russia. That Russia helped Armenia to occupy these areas in 90s because Soviet Union used to have a lot of weaponry and they provided for Armenia for the escalation and also like ongoing of the conflict or the war in 1990s. And then we also have again, we have this negative experience of Russia, either in Karabakh, also in Baku, like in 1990s, like the Soviet troops also killed around, like, I would say more than 150 people in Baku. This again, I mean, if we talk about the public opinion, it's not pro-Russia at all. Of course, there are some different groups that also think that we should also find a common language with Russia, or Russia is here. But in general, it's negative. And that's why when Russia mediated this trilateral peace agreement, some people got a little bit upset in the beginning because, we always think that Russia has some goals or purposes behind the curtains. In terms of Turkey, Turkey is considered as kind of as an ally of Azerbaijan, even though there's no official, let's say, the long-term official cooperation, especially in military. Of course, there are some military trainings that they conduct together, but not like the case of Armenia and Russia. And until the war and during the war, Turkey has always, let's say, supported in a diplomatic level, again, in military training level, Azerbaijan, and they always express that. I mean, we support the integrity of Azerbaijan as we do for other countries, and the public opinion is also quite pro-Turkish or pro-Turkey, I would say. It's not only about like the nationalism. I mean, it's not about that, like the let's say majority of the people are Turkic origin. It's kind of I think like the language, also like the either political, economic ties that they have had in these years.
Bakhtiyar, thank you so much.
Yes, thank you so much too.
And have a nice day.